So what I want to talk to you today is two things that are very important to me: business and the outdoors. And what works in your business also works, what works in your mountains also works in your business, okay? So I've been very lucky to have a long and very successful career in business. I worked for IBM for 11 years in 4 different countries, worked for them in the US, Australia, Japan, and Singapore. Worked for General Electric, worked for Cisco in management. And I was executive VP of sales for 3 technology startups, one in Manhattan, one in Connecticut, and one in Arizona as well. And I've had a couple of startups of my own. So I've kind of seen what works and what doesn't work in pretty much large, medium, and small companies, and pretty much all over the world, because I've been lucky to live, work, and travel in many places. Now, the other thing that I really love, and I use it as an escape from business, is to go outdoors. And I love, not quite extreme, but fairly far-edged outdoor stuff. I've climbed Kilimanjaro, climbed Mount Agung in Indonesia, done the Inca Trail in Peru, the Milford Track in New Zealand, and about 4 years ago I went into Nepal in South Asia and walked into Mount Everest Base Camp. Now, I didn't go to the top. That place kills people, so I didn't want to do that. Not a desired outcome. But the thing that's been really important to me is the intersection between what works in your business. The skills and the attributes and the qualities to succeed in business are the same skills, attributes, and qualities that you need to succeed in fairly extreme mountain climbing or long hikes or whatever they are. So I want to explore a couple of these things today against the backdrop of Nepal and the Himalayas and Everest Base Camp. The first thing is, believe it or not, talent is really overrated. Everybody talks about how important talent is. It's about 20%. The most important thing that you need in business or in the outdoors or in family is attitude. If you don't have a good attitude, you are going to fail. You might be the smartest person in the world, but if you can't work by yourself or if you can't work in a team, it's just not going to happen. So attitude is so important. You can train for skills, you can acquire skills, but you can't train for attitude and you can't acquire attitude. Either you have it or you don't. So for me, success comes from 2 things, and it's really quite simple. It's the 80-20 rule that I'm sure you've all heard of. It's 20% skills, all right? 20% mechanics. And 80% is your psychological approach to whatever the problem is that you're working. Whether it's climbing mountains, trying to make a multi-million-dollar sale, whether to grow a team or grow a business. It's all about your attitude towards the problem that you've got. Skills are important, yes, and you've got to have them. But attitude is by far the dominant factor in success in whatever it is that you're doing. Next thing I want to talk about is commitment. Okay? People say, yes, I commit to get this done by 5 o'clock Friday. You go looking for them at 4 o'clock and they're gone. People say, I will do this for sure by lunchtime, and it just doesn't happen. So I want to show a little video about commitment. And this was in a plane, a small plane. We're in Nepal, and we're flying in this 15-seater from Kathmandu into Lucknow Airport, which is quite a small airport. Now, when you see this video, which I took from inside the plane, you think about the nature of commitment that this pilot has made. He is committed to landing this plane.
This is pretty wild. This is, oh crap, that's close. Oh crap, that's close. Oh, and here we are. I've never known a runway that goes uphill. Look how, this is really quite uphill. Instead of turn the engines on again to get up this hill. And it's like the houses right there. This is amazing. Alright, so we're here. Lucknow Airport, here we are, baby.
All right, so just in case you didn't see the, go to the next one. Here's the angle. This is like a 10-degree angle that the airstrip the guy's landing on. At one end of the airstrip, there's a 50-foot rock wall. so he can't overshoot. At the other end of the airstrip, there's a 500-foot drop. On either side of the airstrip, there are houses, and he's landing at 10,000 feet, which means there's about 25% less air, so he's got to come in hard and fast. So this guy's committed to it, and there's no go-around with this either. He's either landing it, or he's sticking it into the ground somewhere. And he's got to land it, so he is committed to it. Now, so we got off this plane, and there's no optical illusions there. That's about 10 degrees. It's really quite steep. Off the plane, and about 20 minutes later, the plane turned around and took off again. So this is the same plane, same pilot leaving. Look at the end of the runway. There's nothing there.
This guy's taking off downhill. I don't know if you can see it probably, but it's just taking off downhill. Off he goes.
So this guy's really good. He's committed to making that plane take off, because if he uses all the runway, and if he doesn't he's off the edge. So I like this guy. I want to go into business with this guy, because whatever he does, he is going to make it happen. The third point I want to talk about is teaming. And teaming is just such a critical thing in everything you do. Life is a team sport. Business is a team sport. And whatever you do, this is what life is all about. You need to have a team. If I can just digress for a moment, we have somebody in the audience here, Anne Lorimer. And Anne is a world record holder. She is the oldest woman ever to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. She's 85 years old. So Anne did this last month, and it's a Guinness World Record. There are three things. It's commitment, attitude, and teaming. Is she the most skilled mountain climber in the world? Probably not. But she's got the attitude of 1,000 warriors, and that's what gets her to the top. So Anne's a rock star, so please come and talk to her at the end or during the day. So we're great to have her here. So in terms of teaming, when I went to Everest Base Camp, I had built up my team. The top left-hand corner is myself and my daughter. I'm a single parent. I've been raising my daughter on my own since I was 9 years old. And it was very important to me. Sorry, let me try that again. It's a good one, yeah. I was close. I've been raising my daughter on my own since she was 9 years old, so I'm a single parent. Wasn't quite the laugh line I was expecting. So anyway, it was important that she was on my team. It's just me and her. So she was on my team, she supported me, and she was helping me all the way through with my training from about a year before we left. Top right-hand corner is was my trainer, a guy called Mac Newton at a gym called Newton Fitness. This guy's phenomenal, just a phenomenal athlete. And he was the world champion in Taekwondo 2 times. So I was lucky to go to his fitness classes, and he would train us to be tough physically and be tough psychologically as well. And in the middle, there's the people I did the walk with. My nephew, David Ellenby, and his wife, Jessica, Paul and Kirsty McConkie, and also our guide, No Wang. So it's all about teaming. So this is a picture inside Mac Newton's gym, and he's got on the wall. I mean, this guy's a 2-time Taekwondo world champion. He doesn't have on the wall how many push-ups you can do is everything. He doesn't have on the wall how high you can kick is everything. Attitude is everything. In whatever you do, in sports, in business, in the mountains, in your family, that's the only thing that really matters. So we're climbing up through the valley of the Himalayas up towards Everest Base Camp. We're zigzagging across the river and across these bridges that were put in place by the United Nations. And I don't like bridges, I don't like heights. I'm not getting too close here because I just don't like heights. Fortunately, these were kind of long, but they were pretty close to the ground. This is a big one, but it wasn't very high, thank goodness, so I could do that. Heights, I make an excuse. I'm out of here. Then we came to what I called the bridge of no excuses. And you either make it happen or you make an excuse. So with heights, I'm like, hey, I think I hear my mother calling me. I'm out of here. But this time I said, I've got to do this. So I was conflicted with these 2 opposing emotions. My fear of heights conflicting with my desire to get to my objective, Everest Base Camp. And when you get a conflict like this, there's 2 or 3 emotions running around, and the strongest emotion always wins. In my case, it was the desire to get to the outcome won over my fear of heights. So I was, this thing's 300 feet high. However, I was lucky in my desire to get to the objective was the strongest emotion, and that won. And this is a long way down. And the worst thing about it, we had to come back like 4 or 5 days later and cross it again. It was horrible. Whatever you're doing, always enjoy the moment. I had the pleasure to spend 12 days up in the Himalayas and wandering around the mountains there. Such a beautiful, beautiful environment. And we'd see vistas like this every day. That's a mountain called Amadablam. It's an ice climb, it's a very difficult climb. But our guide, he'd actually climbed that mountain. It's extraordinary. I just took that picture with my iPhone. It's amazing. So whatever you're doing, you work hard as a team to get what you want to achieve. And you've got to celebrate as a team as well. So this is the day before we got to base camp. We were 60 miles into the hike. We had 60 miles to go. It was about 18,000 feet, so there's 40 or 45% less oxygen than there is at sea level. It was 10 degrees, our water bottles were freezing. We were cold, we were tired, and we were hungry. And we were almost having a good time. It was great. So we got to base camp, and there's the 5 of us kind of celebrating, woohoo, we're here, we made it. Now, Everest Base Camp is steeped in history. There's so much has happened at base camp, climbing the mountains from the first time when Sir Edmund Hillary climbed it in 1953. I didn't go to the top. As I said, that place kills people. But this is the base. It looks really pretty. It looks really lovely. And this is 4 years ago. 6 months ago, an avalanche came through when there was a whole lot of people there ready to climb the mountain, and 22 people were killed. So even though you're in a beautiful, comfortable, idyllic situation, things can change so fast. So we just did a touch and go here. We were there for about an hour, then we got out of here. But I just want to show you a quick video of what it's like at base camp.
Okay, everybody, you can see that. We are at Everest Base Camp. This is the sign that says Everest Base Camp, 5,364 meters, or in the old thing it's 17,800 feet roughly. Very cold, but just beautiful up here. This is the formal, well, that spot says you're at base camp. If you look around, it's still real early in the climbing season, so there's nobody here yet. But in a month or two, there'll be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people camping in this really barren area. It's just on a glacier with lots and lots of rocks everywhere. When they climb up to Everest, they go around the top of these ice falls, and then they go up these ice falls here with a series of ladders put across the spikes of ice, kind of glacial ice. So it's really, really quite dangerous. This part is probably the most dangerous part. More mountains around here. You can't see Everest from here. But at the environment, and it's just beautiful. Look at these mountain peaks. It's sensational. Paul and Kirsty and Nawang and Mingha. Look at this, it's just great. So we're the only people here right now. So there'll be 500 people camping here almost full time on the tops of these mountains here. Up there, way up there. Yeah, it's just stunningly gorgeous. So we've made it. We all did great. I'd never, ever do it again. It was such a beautiful climb.
All right, so that was great. By the way, never say never, because I think I'm going back there in a couple of years' time. All right. Whatever you're doing, you've also got to be very, very clear about your objective. My objective is to get to base camp, but it's also to get back safely, particularly for my daughter. The interesting thing is when people climb Everest, when they get to the top, most of the accidents happen on the way down, because the climbers mistakenly think their objective is to get to the top, when in fact their objective is to get to the top and get back down safely. They get to the top, they relax, they think they're okay. On their way down, that's when accidents happen. Okay, so our objective was to get to base camp and also get back to Lachlan so we could enjoy a couple of things. Good cup of coffee, there's the internet cafe, and there's the sign for the Irish pub in the background as well. So we needed to make sure we had a few good things. So these things are all pretty important. Success it's 80% is mechanics, but 20% is mechanics and 80% is the psychological aspects. And it's all about your attitude. Attitude is so important. Yes, you need the talent. Yes, you need the skills and the mechanics, but it's your attitude towards anything and everything that you do, in your business, in your relationships, in your family, or out in the mountains. It's your attitude that is most important. Always understand the nature of commitment. When you say you will do something, do it. Okay? When someone ever uses the word commit to me, I always think of the pilot and I think, well, that guy was committed. How committed are you? Everything you do is teaming. Life is a team sport. Being here is a team sport. Everything you do is you've got to be part of a team. If you think you can do it on your own, that's just not going to work for you or for anybody else. Whenever you have a conflict, understand that the strongest emotion always wins, whether it's somebody else's conflict or your own internal conflict. Once you understand that, it becomes clearer and easier to resolve these issues. Understand what your objectives are as well. And the last point is the selves. Not the selfies, but the selves. Self-image, self-esteem, self-awareness, self-confidence. So if you can understand all these, keep them front of mind as you go through your day-to-day life, in your business, in your family, in your relationships, and in the outdoors. You'll do great. Thank you very much.